Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to In-Depth Perceptions. I'm extremely happy and excited to be here with you today, where we're going to go on this journey, or we're going to continue on this journey, this inward journey together. The last video, where we talked about compartmentalization and what that actually was, what that actually is, and what is its fundamental role in society. And we touched on compartmentalization both inwardly and outwardly, and the definition of compartmentalization, which means to divide something into categories or sections. So within compartmentalization, there is division, there is separation. This was the main point of the last video, and we looked at various examples outwardly in society and inwardly of this separation, this compartmentalization. And as I said in the end of the video, we're trying to get at the root of something here. We're trying to get at the heart of something. That's what the purpose, that's what the intention of this series is. But it requires patience, and it requires intense observation, inwardly and outwardly, to see the heart of the matter, to see the root, to hold it in your hand and look at it for yourself. Because every human being on this planet, all 7 billion, have the capacity to look at what we're speaking of. You don't need to follow a religion, an ideology, a philosophy, a guru, a leader, a political party, anything to see what we're speaking of. To have clear perception of who you truly are. So after having said all that, I wonder if we are ready to continue our journey, this inward journey that we are taking together. Standing on this observational platform, looking inwardly and outwardly. So the title of this video is called A Journey That Never Ends and Has No Destination. And what we're trying to look at here, what we're trying to see here, is time. What is time? Because a journey that I am speaking of, that never ends and has no destination, exists outside of time. It has no relation to time whatsoever. Time is separate. Time is a concept. Time is measurement. And if we remember from the last video, measurement inherently breeds conflict. Now, there may be people, well, there may be people, there will be many, many, many people who sit there and say that to exist without all these concepts and labels and measuring is impossible. And if that's what you're thinking, let's ask ourselves the question, is it possible? Because if we can honestly look at ourselves and we can see time for what it is and how we are trapped in time and what it means to be trapped in time, what I'm saying, what's it actually pointing at in our everyday lives, and how we're conducting ourselves according to time. We live our lives by time. And I don't mean time, I need to be here in an hour. This outward time in which that we see. an evolutionary process takes what we could call time. Series of nows, one after the other, lead to something, because everything is in constant change and in constant flux. Everything is energy. Everything is moving, is alive. So there is constant change. But that's not the concept of time. The concept of time is measurement. The concept of time is promoted by mainstream channels. If you follow any sort of mainstream physics, time is spoken of as if it exists, as if this concept which Einstein wrote down on paper, in which time is this malleable space-time fabric, which is nothing more than an idea or a concept, which is taken literally, and many people live their lives as if time actually exists. I need to do all these things before I die. This perception of time. And we are conditioned from birth to exist in what we could call psychological time. Not the time where it takes to get to point A to point B if you're driving in a vehicle. This time, outward time, or the outward expression of time, can be measured, or one of the best definitions I've heard of time, and I can't exactly remember where I heard it from, was time is nothing more than a sequence of events counted on something like a clock. So time ultimately doesn't exist. It only exists psychologically. And what I mean by psychological time, and how it breeds conflict, and how we're locked into this delusional perception that time, there is this thing of time. There is this idea that's real. Time exists. And the danger and the eventual outcome of believing in time is the constant search, the constant trying to become. All of this implies time. All of this is interwoven with psychological time. And time is measurement. Time is, I'm trying to become something. I have to do this, and this in order to become. And once I have become, I am fulfilled. I have reached something. I have reached a pinnacle. This all implies time. This inherently breeds conflict, because through this time, if I take these appropriate steps and I go to university and do this, and I do a trade and do this, or if I make a lot of money and then I become this, all of this is a psychological process of becoming. And then once the ideal is reached, once you've become, it's not what is. It's not what you thought it was. So can we see this psychological process of time within ourselves? Can we hold it and look at it? and see how we've all been conditioned, and in which ways in our own lives we've thought, I need to do this and become. I need to attain something financially. I need more material possessions. Once that's attained, my life will be good. I'll have peace and balance. All of this implies time. And time is measurement, and measurement is conflict. It is rooted, conflict is rooted in time, in measurement, in compartmentalization, which is why we're looking at time today, because it plays such a prevalent role in our lives. And I'm not sure, maybe you guys can help me with this, but is that not true? Is it not one of the main driving forces of our lives? I must do this before I run out of time, before I die, before I get too old. This constant becoming. So, can we ask ourselves the question, how can we become something when we already are? Can we not see the simplicity in this? Can we not see the simple truth to that? Or is it obscured by all this psychological noise going on that is telling us we need to become, that is telling us that we need to get somewhere, which is telling us that in order to be fulfilled, you must practice a method. You must be part of a certain religion, belong to a certain group. This can all be related to the process of becoming. And it's mind-blowing. It's wild to see. It's wild to look at yourself honestly and see the way in which the mind operates and exists in this state of time. A concept, an ideal. Everyone's on this journey, seeking pleasure, seeking more, seeking, looking outside for answers, whether it's in religion or spirituality or leaders or teachers, political ideals and philosophies, all this nonsense that exists. And one isn't trying to be harsh, but can we see all this for the nonsense that it is? So, this journey that we're taking together exists outside of the psychological concept of time. It exists in this very moment, the now. The now has no past and no future. Therefore, there is no time. If you can observe yourself in the present moment and see that your future projections ideals, your past story, all exists in time, all exists in measurement. And if there is this psychological character, which we could call the ego or the I or the self, which is existing in this conceptualized reality that it believes truly exists, and believes that it truly exists. If we're caught in that, we're caught in time and we're caught in conflict. And through conflict, we can never have peace. We can never have the release of fear, doubt, and negativity. All this crazy thing, and all the crazy things that people suffer through. There is immense suffering in which we cause to ourselves because of this existence in time and this constant trying to become something. I think that's it for today's video. I don't want to belabor points too much because we're going to continue on this journey. Because this psychological concept of time, which we talked about, compartmentalization, first in the first video. We've talked about time and moving from compartmentalization, which is separation and division, where these separate entities, which are the egos, which are the I's, which are the me's, that are in constant competition with one another and in constant measurement with themselves, ultimately leads to fear, which is what we're going to tackle in the next video. Fear. The number one controlling mechanism of humans. And we're going to ask ourselves some tough questions in the next video. Can we be free of fear? Well, this is why this video about time is a good... It leads into fear very well. Because existing in this psychological concept of time breeds fear. Just as it breeds conflict with yourself. Because you can never become something when you already are. Can we see the ridiculousness of this, even though the one sitting here has been caught in that for most of his life, as I'm sure we all have been. So we're still trying to answer these tough questions, and we're still going to ask, can we exist outside of all of this nonsense? All of this mind, can we exist outside this mind-identified state and be pure awareness? Not as a concept or an ideal that have to be absolutely concrete, clear on that. Not as a concept or an ideal. Not creating more separation. Believing yourself to be the observer of yourself. It's not what we're getting at here. But please join me in the next video as we continue this journey and we continue to ask questions. I'm very excited to continue it with you guys. That'll be it for today. Take care, everybody.